Cemetery Walk today to earn money for the restoration of the Civil War monument. Mirabelle Seeger is going to tell you all about the mausoleum.
It was built in 1911 on this location, and the Civil War veterans in this area. This is the first time I've been in here, so it's all new to me also, so bear with me. But as you notice in your program, it gives more information there, and there's 240 crypts in the building, and the floor is solid 12 inches of concrete, and then your marble slabs over the top of the concrete. And each crypt is, let's see how long is it? It's, I think, 6. Here I read it one place. 6 feet. No, 10 feet or whatever it is. You'll see in your notes. And all the Civil War veterans is in this area here on the side. You can go down and find them, and also other people, many of them that you know, are Gordon Yaden and Dorothy right up above us, which we're very thankful for all of his information and work that he's done for the Historical Society and our community. Very much. Like I say, the checks, and you'll find them around in here when you're going through it a little bit ago, and found several of the Civil War veterans, usually the ones here with the flags. You can find them rather easier. And also on this side, the veterans and that all have flags. Like I say, I was never in here before myself, and I was quite amazed when I walked in. I really didn't know what to expect. I'm probably in the way here. People want to see things.
My name is Henrietta Coop, and I was married to a person right here, William Cameron Coop. He was born August 4th, 1836 in Mount Pleasant, Indiana. When he was 9 years old, his mother died, and his father had a tavern, and since he wasn't old enough to do it, he was 13 years old, sorry, I got the age wrong. His mother died, and he couldn't go in the tavern business with his father, so he took up printing, and he was an apprentice printer. When he was 17, he and a friend decided to move to Terre Haute because it was a bigger city and there were more job opportunities, and he thought he could get a printing job in Terre Haute. But when he got there, he found that Terre Haute had an abundance of printers and apprentices, and there really weren't any jobs in the printing trade. So he joined the Mabie's Circus. And the Mabie's Circus was the Mabie's Grand Olympic, Olympic Circus. And he started out as what they called a mud boy. And mud boys were just gophers. They did errands and whatever needed to be done around the circus. But he found that he had a real talent for this. He loved people, people loved him, and eventually he worked his way up to sideshow manager. During this time, he met me, and we got married in 1860, and I was in Kenosha, so when he was here with the circus, a lot of the circuses wintered in Delavan. In fact, at one point, there were 23 circuses that were in Delavan area. So that's how he met me. From there, he joined the Army. He was in Company K, I think it was 46th Wisconsin Volunteer Army. And he went in February, and they mustered him out in September. From there, he came back to Delavan, and looking for a job, found all the circuses again. And I wanted to come back to Delavan to live because I was really tired of being on the road and being in New York. And since my family was in Kenosha, this was closer. So I talked him into buying a farm, and we bought a farm, and I thought we'd raise animals and live happily ever after on the farm. But William loved the circus. So it wasn't too long, and he ran into Dan Costello, who was a friend and an acquaintance from when he worked with the Mabie Circus. So Dan said he really needed to meet this P.T. Barnum. And P.T. Barnum really wasn't a circus person, but he was a promoter extraordinaire. I mean, whatever he did was grand and over the top. So he met this P.T. Barnum, and P.T. Barnum had money and resources, and William had the ideas and the experience and the energy. So the two of them made a good pair. And they started a circus, and the first circus was called The Greatest Show on Earth, and I'm sure it still carries the Barnum and Bailey Greatest Show on Earth. But anyway, they toured all of the Midwest, okay? And every season they came up with a new name for their circus because P.T. Barnum was always over the top. I mean, and people knew he was over the top, but it added to the excitement. I mean, even if it was a little bit of malarkey, it was over the top. So one thing that William was known for, besides his organizational skills of being able to run all of it, is he was the first one that came up with a center pole tent, where the center pole, it made for larger tents. It was easier to put up and take down, so they could break camp and move to the next town quicker. Besides that, he was also the one that started moving the circus by rail. And they couldn't lift those big circus cars up onto the flatbed, but he worked at the railroad, and they came up with an idea to end load them. So they would hook up the whole circus train and just take the horses and everything and march them right up onto the train. They'd chuck them, and it made it possible for them to play in another town 100 miles away the next day. In addition to that, he talked the railroad into giving reduced price tickets to anyone that was coming to the circus. So it generated more people and more enthusiasm. And when the P.T. Barnum Circus was coming to town, everybody was excited because at that point it was the biggest circus. When they went to New York, they called it, and all these names they had, I can't remember them all. They called it the Grand Traveling Museum Menagerie Circus Hippodrome in Brooklyn. And that was in 1874. And that was the largest circus they ever had. And they called it the Hippodrome, yes. And it attracted more people than any other circus ever had. It was huge. Also, William was the one that came up with a 2-ring circus and later a 3-ring circus. Because they had animals and they had trapeze artists and they had gymnasts, they had all kinds of different talent. They had the 3-ring circus that were all going on simultaneously. That was William's idea and was the first circus to perform that. Okay? He had this relationship with P.T. Barnum. They were both good for each other because he made P.T. Barnum a lot of money and he was able to pursue his dreams because he really was good at circuses. Then P.T. Barnum leased the circus out to another gentleman, and William didn't really care for this guy. He didn't think he was upstanding. He didn't think he was honest. So he severed ties with him. So then he went to New York, and he and a couple other people opened the New York Aquarium, which was a big thing because New York didn't have a big aquarium, and everything they did was on a grand scale. I mean, it was just bigger than life. Also, he had a new United Monster show, and he had many Wild West shows throughout the country touring. Then his luck turned bad. He lost the aquarium in a roll of the dice one night. And shortly after that, the train that all his equipment was on derailed and crashed in Cairo, Illinois. It left him with no equipment anymore. It almost devastated him. So the rest of his life, he had opened the Chicago Museum, and he had what was called the Enchanted Rolling Palace. Those were his final ventures. He never really recuperated financially after the train wreck. He did all right, but he was never the scale that he was before. And he died on March 4th, 1895 of pneumonia in Florida. Everyone loved him. He had friends in every state in the Midwest, including General Grant and General Sherman. They were great friends. And also the people of Delavan loved him. So after he died, they erected this memorial to him. So while he's not buried here, that is his memorial. I'm buried here and our son William is buried here. So that is the end of what I know about William
Where is he buried?
in Florida. In those days, I don't think it was possible to ship bodies, by wagon train and train. They would not have been well preserved. So anyway, the next stop on this tour is up the hill. Behind those trees is the monument, the big